Sometimes it could be physical, sometimes it could be psychological, some other times it could come in ways that you are hardly able to capture it or point it out or even report it.
There are a lot of words that manage to pull a person down.
Those are the ones that really run deep, and we should pay attention, to these other types of domestic violence.
Hello, you're welcome to Gist Arena. All we do is gist, and gist. We discuss topical, trending, and exciting topics, and we have fun while at it. We invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy each thrilling moment of gist, and gist.
Hello everyone, you are welcome to another episode of Gist Arena. Like all we do is gist, and gist. It's your girl Ayotunde, and today, inside life, you see these two human beings, they just abandoned me today. Oh well, but God does not abandon his own, and he sent me two delightful people that will be gisting with me. All right, Adenike and Cynthia will not be joining me today, but they sent their greetings, their highs and hellos. So hey girls, hope you're catching fun wherever you are. I did say that I have two people with me today. So yes, we have two guests in the house. Yay! All right, we will also be talking about a very sensitive topic, but one that I believe we should have ongoing conversations about. I will tell us what we'll be talking about after I introduce my guests. So with me today is Auntie Biodun Bangboye. Yes, Auntie Biodun is a child protection advocate and a network marketer. You should, look up with her on Facebook. She's such an interesting person. I also have with me Mr. Shitu Fura. I call him Oga Shitu. Yes, Agashitu is a friend. He is a writer and a public affairs analyst, and he is also a very, very interesting person to be around. So you can look him up on Facebook too, and you can catch up with him there. So what are we talking about today? Today we want to look at domestic violence against men. Yes, you heard me. I'm thankful for, the platform we have on social media that has availed us the opportunity, of being able to talk about domestic violence. This is a topic that people weren't even talking about, some years ago. But then with the advent of social media, it became such a hot topic. And there have been conversations around it, over and over. But then if we take, a closer look, we will discover that most of the discussions around domestic violence are, targeted at women. They concern women. But then are we saying that women are the only ones who are victims of domestic violence? We all know that that's not, the truth. And so today we want to, take a quick look. We can't exhaust it, I believe, because it's an ongoing conversation. All right. But then we want to take a quick look at domestic violence against men, because men also find themselves to be victims, of this act. All right. I'm going to start with Auntie Biodun. I don't want to assume, I assume that we all know what domestic violence is anyway. It's violence against intimate partners and stuff like that. But then maybe there are some other things that we do not, take cognizance of when it comes to domestic violence. So Auntie Biodun, please, can you tell us, about domestic violence? What exactly, or what form? I don't want to say what exactly is domestic violence. I think we pretty much understand what it is. But then in what forms, can domestic violence manifest? What forms can it take? kindly enlighten us. Thank you.
The moderator has introduced me quite well enough. My name is Biodun Bangboye. I'm a child protection advocate and I'm a network marketer. Yeah, like you rightly mentioned, domestic violence is violence against a close member of the family that one lives with. And it doesn't have to be physical. It doesn't have to be sexual alone. It goes beyond that. Domestic violence could be mental, it could be emotional, it could be psychological. We all know that when somebody is beaten or raped, there are physical evidences that show. But when we have domestic violence that is emotional, that is mental, or psychological, they don't leave physical scars. And because of this, it makes it even more, it makes it deeper, because a lot of people tend to disbelieve reports from a victim about being abused, about going through domestic violence, when they don't see those physical scars. There are lots of cases where somebody reports that they are being emotionally abused, and somewhere like in our society, the first question is, were you beaten? No. Is your spouse being unfaithful? No. And then why are you complaining? And one is expected to just swallow whatsoever abuse the person is going through without complaining. Yet, this kind of abuse can be really debilitating. When you hear every day that you are nothing, that you can't amount to nothing, when one of the spouses insults the other continuously, does everything to run the person down in every way, blocks opportunities, you mention that you want to do this, the next thing is for the other spouse to tear that thing down. It's not good. You are not good enough. Is it your kind they are looking for? Even you want to go and do something like this. You know, there are a lot of words that manage to pull a person down. And you find that it is abuse like this that send people to the psychiatric ward. It tends to tear a person's self-worth, self-confidence down so that they are unable to actually function. There are cases where people are driven to suicide just because of emotional trauma and psychological trauma that there are no scars for it. So this kind of abuse exists. It's part of domestic violence, and they are also, it's just as important as any form of physical violence. And the issue is it only with women that this is happening? The answer is no. In our patriarchal society, like Nigeria, where we come from, patriarchy hasn't only done the woman a bad thing. It has also done the men a serious injustice. You are taught that men don't cry, men are not supposed to complain, men are not supposed to be abused, they are not supposed to be victims of abuse, they are supposed to be able to handle things like a man. We portray the picture of the alpha man as the only type of man. And it does men an injustice. So for instance, you find a man who has been severely abused by his wife. He goes to report to the police station, and everybody in the police station are laughing at him. Policemen, rather than take the reports, they are all laughing like, are you a man? That man shamefacedly returns back and, just does things, to tolerate the abuse and keep it quiet. So patriarchy doesn't just do injustice to the women. It also serves men a very, 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 very unfair card. And I'm so happy that people are beginning to talk about this now, that we're beginning to discuss these issues as it pertains men. It's really a joy to me because there are a lot of men going through domestic violence and who, up till now had nowhere to run to. It's a very useful discussion we're having here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Auntie Biodun, for shedding light on that. So it's not just about the physical aspect. Domestic violence can manifest in other ways, and those ways that really tear down an individual to the core, those ways that rob an individual of their essence, the ones that strip an individual's self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth. Those are the ones that really run deep, and we should pay attention to these other types of domestic violence. And I like what you said about patriarchy there, patriarchy. Maybe one of these days we will, really be able to sit down and gist about patriarchy. But, discussions about patriarchy can come with some buzzwords. But who knows? Let's see how it goes. Maybe we'll be able to sit patriarchy down and, talk to it as you. What do you think you are doing? All right. So my next question goes to Ogashitu. Mr. Fowler, how prevalent do you think domestic violence against men, is in Nigeria, Africa, or generally? How prevalent? Well, let's, probably try and focus on our client. How prevalent do you think domestic violence is against men? And then, what form do you think is common, with men? That's what form of domestic violence do you think men experience most? Because like Auntie Biodun said, if a man goes to the station or something to say, hey, my wife beats me, they could laugh at him or something like that. In fact, people could laugh at him because, like, man, come on now, stuff like that. So, but then, maybe men don't necessarily experience the physical aspects. I'm not saying they don't. Some probably do. But then what form do you think is most prevalent, with men? Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Ayotunde and Biodun. I like your inputs on this topic concerning men. A lot of people do not know how prevalent domestic violence is against men. However, for every 2 to 3 women who face domestic violence, there's a chance that there's one man who is facing some sort of violence from their partners who they may be married to or be in a romantic relationship with. When it comes to the domestic violence against men, sometimes it is not on the physical side, like Biodun pointed out. Sometimes it could be physical, sometimes it could be psychological, some other times it could come in ways that you are hardly able to capture it or point it out or even report it. It could be insults, name calling. Sometimes it could be when your partner stops you from seeing certain persons who were part of your life. It could be family members or friends. Sometimes you have people, you have partners who try to control how you spend. Now, it is not necessarily a bad thing for your partner to control how you spend. What becomes bad is when such control is inimical to your progress or the progress of both of you. So these are some of the areas where domestic violence, affects men, and in so many ways, when your partner pushes you into, the use of drugs, depression, feeling of inadequacy, I mean, these are areas that could stem from domestic violence. And again, when you have some of these issues, it could resort to there's a cost that comes with domestic violence, because when men are subjected to domestic violence, it affects their self-esteem. They may lose concentration and energy and steam and drive, in their places of work. It may affect their self-confidence, and then these things may be passed on to their children. So you have children who grow up to become adults tomorrow, having lived with and been with men or women who were subjected to different forms of domestic violence. And so violence is not just about, kicking and beating. It could come in that way. I mean, some men actually suffer it. Women who could slap you at any slightest provocation and call it playing, and, you just chin up, or you just not want to talk about it again because you feel you're the man. But if it is unwarranted, if it is unanticipated and you get a slap, it is wrong. And you have to point out these issues and address it in the best of ways. Like I did mention earlier, you have different forms of domestic violence, that affects men. And it will come from the way your partner bugs you, about money, because, she's your responsibility. You get it. And so if it pushes you into a state of worry, concern, alarm, depression, you feel out of place, you're unable to carry out your normal functions, you should be able to sit down and address it, or talk to her and say, watch, this thing is affecting me in this way or that way, and therefore look for ways to resolve the issues. So there's a lot of cost that comes to, to the society, because the partners are being, abused, either physically or psychologically, mentally, and all of that. So when it comes to all of this, we can look at reasons why men may not report domestic abuse or violence coming from their intimate partners. Sometimes words could hurt more than, physical violence or kicking and beating. Words could re-echo in the minds even while you are asleep. Some of these words may come up in your dreams. You get it, and so it messes up with your psyche, messes up with how you're able to process things. So when these words do not edify, if these words do not make you feel better, and they sink you into depression, or sink you into panic, or sink you into alarm or regret and all of that, then it's a form of abuse. And so you should be able to seek for help from experts who will be able to point the issues, analyze it, and see how they can get you out of this problem. I think that's about it. There's no point pretending about what you go through, because when you keep quiet about what is eating you up, you end up dying, and your partner moves on. So it is only fair. You will be fair to yourself by speaking out, by raising your voice, by communicating with your partner or someone who is an expert, who can, look at issues and help you resolve it, be it maltreatment, be it verbal abuse, be it non-verbal abuse, be it physical, sexual, psychological, stalking and other forms of threats. That's about it.
Thanks to Agashita for that enlightening contribution. Thank you for telling us more about the various ways a woman can perpetrate violence against a man. And that, again, reiterates the fact that it's not until you lift your hands, physically, that you are a perpetrator. Even when you stalk. Oh gosh, you mentioned stalking. And I was like, that one on the entertainment zone. But then I do understand that some partners can really be quite paranoid, and they just do things to stifle their partners, and in this case now, the woman stifling the man, not allowing him to express himself one way or the other, and then, stalking. Oh my God. So there are different ways, you can actually put someone down without necessarily laying your hands on them. And these are things that we need to watch out for. These are things that we need to keep talking about and see how we can, bring this kind of acts, to the barest minimum. Thank you again for that contribution. So that takes me to my next point, and I'm throwing this to both Auntie Biodun and Mr. Fawora now. What, in your opinion, do you think are the factors that engender DV against men? Okay, so it's not like we're trying to look for excuses, because there are actually no justifiable excuses or reasons for domestic violence. But then, just for the purpose of enlightening ourselves, okay, or educating ourselves, what factors could be responsible, for this kind of acts? Why do you think a woman, for instance, would, be a perpetrator? Are there relationship dynamics that, could precipitate this act, or that could underlie domestic violence? What do you think? I'd like to know.
Thank you, Ayotunde. I'll start quickly by saying there is no justification for bad behavior. However, we can have issues around the individual who is exhibiting such behavior, such acts of aggression and violence against their partners. We'll probably have to divide the factors that precipitate domestic violence towards men to about 3 or 4, but I would think that there may be individual factors. The female, the lady or the woman involved may have issues around history of domestic violence. She could be victim of domestic violence over the years, or she has grown under people who have been abused, violated, and therefore it's her coping mechanism. Some have attention deficits or learning disorders, for which whatever happens to them, their response to such acts is to be violent, instead of being able to listen to the other person and see how they can make things work. So they will rather react with aggression, typical of people who have low IQ. When you encounter riffraffs or people in or touts, for example, it's difficult for you to communicate with them and have them accept or agree on something, especially if they feel that they are being cheated or they are being lauded over. So you have people who have such poor behavioral control because they are unable to, they have low IQ, or they are unable to process things as intelligent people will do. So one other reason why women could display violence against their partners could be because they are under a lot of distress. They could be under a lot of emotional distress. Women tend to take in a lot of things, and sometimes these women may be trying to contend with so many things at the same time, and there may be things that are relevant or even irrelevant. Women want to be seen as the happening babes in town, and they want to attend some of the best parties with their peers, and if they are unable to meet up, it could create a lot of distress to them. they could be going through issues, personal issues. They could be going through issues of trying to see how their own parents will cope with their lives and all of that. Having to take in a lot at the same time could make them react, in ways that are unexpected of them to their significant other. Sometimes it is the issue of unemployment or having too much time at your disposal, doing nothing specifically. So you would think that someone who has all the time to herself could just be happier, but no. The devil's, what do you call it? The idle hands now. The idle hands is devil's workshop. So someone who is not doing anything could just be thinking of stuff, reaction, to things that, negative reactions to issues that ordinarily should not be negative. Just simple to do things, being done in aggressive ways. Sometimes it is due to unplanned pregnancy or miscarriages. So these are events or these are happenings that are very touchy to women. So sometimes in response to what is happening to them, their system, sometimes they begin to exhibit behaviors that are untoward towards their partners. So we may not excuse all of these things, especially because there are ways of working around it and getting better from it. So that's it about the issues around that. Now, I did say that hurt people, and so sometimes you see people being standoffish or being bossy or necessarily high-handed or not wanting to compromise because they feel hurt in the past and therefore they are taking out that hurt on some other persons. Excuse me. Sometimes when a woman feels financially suffocated, she'll cuss out, she'll be angry, she'll compare her partner with some other persons, and it drives the man crazy. It makes the man feel inadequate, but it could be because of his inability to meet up the financial needs of the family that spurs her into such action. Sometimes it is because of low academic qualifications. Someone who feels she can do more, but does not have the requirements, probably she hasn't acquired enough education to be able to fit into the kind of lifestyle she wants, may begin to take it on her partner. Just saying about if you cannot dazzle them with brilliance, you baffle them with bullshit, comes in handy. People will be unable to, involve in things that show their brilliance, their ingenuity, their skills, may just begin to throw up tantrums and behaviors that show, some uncertain or some unstable behavioral tendencies that way. Again, it's been observed that younger people tend to be more energetic, aggressive sometimes, and so people of a certain age, men and women regardless, have a tendency to not be able to interpret coherently the behavior of their partners, and therefore their responses, especially when they are not looking out to listen to understand, they are listening to respond. So sometimes when you respond to issues with the wrong words, it could spur the other person into anger or hostility and all of that. So basically, we could say that these factors that precipitate domestic violence are divided into about 3 or 4. Sometimes it's an issue around gender roles, believe in gender roles. So you believe that, okay, the male has to be a domineering, aggressive person. But what if he's the type that is on the calm side, the one that would rather be your friend than your boss. And so some women take it out on such men to mean that they are weaklings and therefore they become aggressive. So that's one. For some who had grown in environments that were hostile to men, some of those men may exhibit behaviors that makes it possible, makes it probable that their partners will begin to exhibit aggression towards them, because their partners expect them to exhibit certain behaviors that you expect of men, and if they do not express such behaviors, some partners may begin to get aggressive. Some of these issues may be relationship issues, so where you have issues around conflicts, managing conflicts. So if you're unable to manage a conflict well, a certain issue that you're unable to deliberate properly and get around it, your partner may begin to express some behaviors or some aggressive behavior that are untoward. Again, those who have witnessed their parents involving domestic violence or use violence as their way of resolving issues may want to repeat the same thing towards their partner. So it could come from the male or the female gender. Again, some people do not know how to resolve issues without applying the cane. So sometimes when they cannot cane adults like them, they resort into verbal abuse or physical abuse or aggressive behavior. Another factor is community. So when you grow up in communities where there's a lot of unemployment, there's overcrowding, there's a lot of violence in the streets as how people are able to cope, the coping mechanism for many on a daily basis. If you grow up in such communities, you may be tempted to think that that is normal and you could take it out on your partner. It is not normal, and there are other issues around social groups that help people resolve issues of marital discord. So when you live in an environment where there are no such groups, you become law unto yourself, because you feel nobody's going to resolve your issue. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go for support. There's nobody to listen to you. There's nobody to even sanction or punish your partner for certain behavior, and therefore you would rather do all of it by yourself on your own. And that is how some women get to take out their anger and aggression on their partners. Some other ones may come from culture. There are cultures that predisposes people to exhibit certain behavior. So sometimes when partners are undergoing certain health challenges, it could cause their wives or their partners, as the case may be, to become aggressive instead of kind. You'll often hear mothers tell their sons, aren't you a boy? A boy is not meant to be sick. You're supposed to be strong. And so you could hear the same from a wife, to the husband. For how long will you be sick? For how long can we sustain this, your sick condition? For how long will you be on the sick bed while I take care of the home? The aggression will come at a time when the man who ordinarily or supposedly is on the stronger side is now weakened by health challenges. It could be mental health, it could be other forms of health challenges. And then such women take it out on them at that time, believing that would be their way of getting back at their husband. So there's a whole lot tied to it. It depends on time. It depends on background, the kind of society these people are in. It depends on the personal realities of these individuals, what they had gone through while they were growing or while they were, in their adult years. Thank you.
Thank you, Ogashitu, for that very detailed explanation of the things that could precipitate domestic violence against men. Actually spent some time thinking about that question, and I just I thought they are the same things that precipitate domestic violence against women. Whatever reasons we give, there are no excuses for it. It could be like Ogashito has listed quite a lot of things, so I don't want to repeat that. One major thing that I noticed, though, on both sides of the divide is jealousy. In the cases of domestic violence against men that we've seen, we see that there's a lot of jealousy involved. Either the woman suspects that her man has affairs outside, or is cheating on her, or has pregnated somebody and she can't handle it, and then she gets violent. And that actually made me realize that there are actually, I think I can distinguish between two types of violence against men. The one that is that has no reason, that it has to do with the nature of the violent spouse. That is, the woman is just a bully. Just like we have men that are just bullies. The woman is just a bully. And there are a lot of these cases that I've heard about. I will come back to that later. But there is also the other kind of violence against, domestic violence against men that we are beginning to see, where a woman who has been abused herself by that same spouse rises up, breaks down mentally, and many times ultimately kills the man. The example that has been put up on that on the group right now about a man who was killed by his wife, I read through it, and it was jealousy. The woman had been provoked because she's the fourth wife herself, and her husband had impregnated somebody else again. So she went berserk and killed the man. There are lots of cases. I think there were 2 or 3 cases a few years ago. There's a lady, I remember that because an organization I work with, or I know the organization, they've been working to free this woman. A young woman, I think she had a baby then. The husband was known for beating and battering her. And this particular day, he locked the children outside, tied up the woman. She managed to escape or something. He was beating her. Neighbors could not come in to rescue her, and she took a knife, the only thing she could lay her hands on, and defended herself with it. The man died. Of course, she had killed her husband. So we have those cases as well. So I think it's important for us to distinguish between the cases of domestic violence against men and separate them from cases where the woman is actually acting based on aggravation by the man's actions. Either the man had done everything to provoke her to violence, either by physically raising his hands against her or driving her to emotional instability, and that happens a lot. So when we're talking about domestic violence against men, I'm taking it to understand that we are talking of the cases where the man is a victim of continual violence against a spouse, and that man is not the initiator of the violence that is returned. So I want to make that distinction. So when we're talking about cases where a woman is just abusive, and I will give a story, because I did a post about this on my Facebook wall, and some people came inbox to actually share some of their stories with me. One of the stories, actually a cousin, a lady, came to tell of her cousin who had been in a violent, domestic violence situation with his spouse. They'd been married, young marriage, maybe 3 years. They had a baby, and the woman had been beating her husband since the marriage started. Even when everybody thought it was lovey-dovey, she was beating this man. And it was for any reason. It was for just any reason she could. If she got angry for anything, she would either slap him, throw things against him. The man would run out of the house, call friends, tell people to calm her down. She would cry. They've been to the pastor. She says she has a temper that can't be controlled. She keeps on begging he shouldn't leave her and all that. But he'd gotten to the point where I think also she had raised a knife against him, and the man eventually had to move out. Unfortunately, he had just moved out. That was December 2019 was when he moved out, and he just found a place, and he was trying to see how he could get his daughter to live with him because he was really afraid for the child's life. We have that. I have a personal friend who also, the marriage was quite young when he had to leave. And when I called him, like, I knew you had such a fantastic wedding. And the first thing he said was, Biodun Wushi, this woman was chasing me with a knife around the house. I said, have you been beating her before? He said, hey, how can he beat her? He was the one that had to escape for his life quite a few times. It's not the first time we had, like I said on that post, there were a few stories. One of them mentioned that she had a neighbor where the woman used to beat the man on a continual basis. It was almost every day that neighbors used to run, to help this man and save him from his wife. So we have these cases, and I think there is no justification. There is no reason for them happening, but they happen. Just as in domestic violence against men as well as domestic violence against women, it says nothing about the character of the victim. It doesn't matter how they have, whether, they said something nasty or they said something good, or, if you live with somebody who takes offense at every small thing and begins to use you as the scapegoat, don't stay. Don't just stay, just leave. There's no reason to be treated like you are a drum, to be beaten any time, or to be insulted every time. Communication should be a normal thing within a marriage or a relationship, a family relationship, and there should be no reason why one person is one person becomes the punch bag of the other, either physically or verbally. So I find it difficult to find any reason to justify that. Like I said, I'm also differentiating this from a case where the person, the lady is reacting or acting in self-defense. So, yeah, these are my thoughts on this matter.
Yes, very true, Piedon. Sometimes women who said to be the aggressors are actually reacting to the violence coming from their partners. So that sometimes when it results into fatalities, it may be that they were only trying to defend themselves from the violence of their male counterparts. However, it is, like you said, not justifiable. If there is nobody to explain, to authenticate their story, it will be difficult for anybody to accept that they didn't start the aggression. So, or to accept the fact that they were trying to protect themselves in self-defense, and that was when such happened. In any case, when people begin to see that they are with partners who are violent, they should seek help.
Wow. Ngashitu practically took us to school and gave us a thorough lecture. That was quite insightful. Thank you so much for the exposition. And Viedo rightly pointed out that the factors that might be responsible for domestic violence against men are probably the same factors that underlie domestic violence against women. So just like King Sunny Ade sang, I think he sang that song, pushing Shomo Korin, Ben Shomo Berin, like as it is doing man, so it is doing woman, something like that. So these factors cut across both genders who are perpetrators of domestic violence. And I think we can all agree, or we all agree, on that point, that there are absolutely no justifiable reasons, for domestic violence against anyone. Ogashito made a very, very good point, saying that people who find themselves to be perpetrators of domestic violence, they need to seek help. So, I mean, it wouldn't matter whatever excuse, we're trying to, that anyone is trying to spring up, from anywhere. The fact remains that if you are in a situation that is making you, perpetrate violence against your significant other, you need to go get help. If you're hurt, maybe you've been hurt before and then you find yourself hurting your partner, go get help. If you're going through a situation that is making you act out aggressively against your partner, you need to go find a way to resolve that, okay? Or find a way to manage the situation or manage your reaction, yes, because you may not even have control over some situations, but you can manage, how you respond, to that situation. You can control that, so just go get help. It is important. There are no reasons whatsoever. And Sibiodun, thank you so much, for your contribution. You also raised, this salient point about women now, because we're talking about domestic violence against men. So women who act out violently against men as in response, to the violent reactions that they have also received from same men. I think that's something that we should also take note of. But just like Ogashitu, said, there's still no justifiable reason. It's still not a good enough reason, which brings us to the point, of leaving. And I know that this is a very dicey, topic, leaving marriage, leaving an intimate relationship and all of that it's like a sore point. So a lot of people don't want to hear it, but hey, rather than be there receiving, all the violence, and then one day, you find yourself acting out aggressively, and then you now become, the murderer, or you become the bad cop at the end of the day, because nobody they won't say, okay, the person was abusing you, so if you have not killed the person, you become the worst criminal in that situation. So rather than wait till then, why don't you just carry your car and leave? I think it's more profitable that way. But then that's topic for another day. Thank you so much, Auntie Bedo, for the stories you shared with us. We are thankful, at least, for giving us more insight into domestic violence against men. So as we try to round up now, I'd like to ask if our guests have, parting words, or some other words that they would still like to say about this matter, and then I'll be back to round up. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ayotunde, for that wonderful summary of all that we've spoken. I think you've actually given the parting word that I would like to say, but I will emphasize it again. And that is that nobody deserves to be treated like a rag. Nobody deserves to be abused physically, mentally, emotionally. Nobody deserves it. And it starts with each individual. Each one of us should tell ourselves that we deserve the best. Male or female, you don't deserve to be treated wrongly. If another person is treating you wrongly in a marriage or in a relationship, you start treating yourself better by walking away from that situation. Don't accept abuse of any sort in the name of marriage or in the name of any relationship. It's something that in Nigeria we will also have to work seriously on, to understand that marriage is not all in all. I think that is the first thing that we need to address in Nigeria. Also the stigma that a lot of people attach to somebody who is divorced, or who is divorced really, who has left a marriage. Those things we have to address in Nigeria. I'm glad that the discussion has started coming up now, and people are beginning to talk more about it. We need to get to the point where we respect the fact that anybody who is being abused in any relationship, has the right, or in fact owes it to themselves to leave that relationship without fear of stigma, without fear of abuse from the society at large. In fact, we should start finding ways to support such people. I think that is one of the important things. And like you've rightly mentioned, there's no reason for violence. What I tell men is the same thing I tell women. If you're being abused, please leave. It's not every victim that becomes a victim, that remains a victim. Sometimes you might be the one who becomes a murderer. So whatever the case, don't wait. Don't wait till you're pushed to the point where you actually begin to contemplate suicide, or you begin to contemplate killing your abuser. Walk away. Walk away. Choose life. Choose life for yourself. Choose life for your children. If you kill the person abusing you and these children have nobody to take care of them, you've left them destitute. Walk away. If you know that your wife, I'm talking to the men now, if you know that your wife is insulting you all the time, provoking you feel she doesn't have respect, you feel that she's talking to you anyhow, don't give her a slap. Walk away, please. Leave the marriage. Don't become the aggressor. If you are being verbally or emotionally abused, don't respond to physical abuse. Walk away. That is just the best thing. Always walk away. There's nothing else to say. Thank you very much for having me on the program. It's been a pleasure. Thank you to the moderator and to my fellow speaker, Mr. Shitu. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and keep choosing joy.
Oh, thank you. In closing, I would like to say that parents should endeavor to parent their kids properly. I see a lot of emphasis on the girl child. Yes, it is fine, but we should also focus on the boy child, the male child, because the male child ends up to become an adult, and poorly brought up children become misfits in relationships and marriages. No woman wants to parent an adult when they find out they are poorly grown or poorly brought up. So when it comes to understanding oneself, being able to seek help when one needs it, it comes from the foundation where a child has been brought up in a way to address issues, to respond to problems, or to respond to concerns in ways that are acceptable to the society and the partner they are involved with.
Nice final remarks from Auntie Biodo and Ogashitu. Thank you so very much. I just quickly like to add that relationships take a great deal of work, and it takes both partners working so hard to make any relationship work. We also know that relationships come with attendant friction. I don't think that there is any relationship that is really void of friction every now and then. But if your relationship with your significant other becomes debilitating, devastating, destructive, or damaging, then you need to take a step back and evaluate your situation before things get out of hand. All right, I want to say a big thank you to our guests, for making themselves available today. Thank you, Auntie Biodo and Mr. Shitu, for the exposition, the information, and the education. It's been so nice gisting with you. I want to say thank you to our audience too for staying with us, in the course of this discussion. Thank you for listening. And you know that we really love to hear from you. We want to know what you think. What part do you agree with? What part do you disagree with? Is there something that you think we didn't touch on? We can resurrect the topic and focus on that. Or, what do you think? We would really love to hear or read from you. And please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Gist Arena. And of course, please follow us on IG. Our handle is Gist Arena with a double A. Yes. Please like, share, comment. We love you for the support we have received so far. Please keep them coming. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Gist Arena. We hope you enjoyed the topic discussed. Please drop your comments and let us know what you think about it. We'll definitely love to hear from you. Until next time, bye!